At a brief but monumental ceremony in the bowels of the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja on Thursday, 26 June 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assented to the 4 tax reform bills transmitted to the executive by the National Assembly. This was the culmination of the almost 2 years' work done by the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, empaneled in July 2023. The 4 new acts take effect from 1st January 2026. While we await the gazetting of the acts, we want to share with you what transpired at that historic occasion. Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio gave a succinct background to the exercise.
Many did not know that by the time you took office in 2023, Nigeria was on life support. We're using about 98% of the daily revenue of this country for debt servicing, and almost 90% was on oil subsidy. And so Nigeria was heading to the brink of collapse. When you came and you said that God brought you for a time like this, and you are prepared to ensure that Nigeria was saved. Here again, we have harmonized the entire tax system in this country. Stamp Duties Act, I think it was in 1901, but last reviewed in 1939. And then here we are, year 2025. We are still operating on even taxes and laws on taxation that were here before the colonial masters left. They were all incorporated into our laws. Yes. And you said this cannot be allowed to continue. Nigeria must be modernized. And modernizing the tax system means bringing more money for the development of the country. Today, you are signing these historic bills into acts of parliament. And I can tell you that even some of the states, when they see the outcome of what they are doing today, generations unborn will remember you. I want to say that myself and my brother, the Right Honorable Speaker, we had no doubt that you came with a vision. And we were determined in Parliament that nobody can stultify your mission for this country. You campaign on the basis of changing the country, changing the perception. And so there was no need for people, no matter what they said. The Parliament was determined to look at the bills and find out whether indeed they were good for this country and they will benefit the vulnerables and the common man and woman in the society. And at the end of almost 10 months of rigmarole, debates, consultations, public hearings, we came to the conclusion that yes, indeed, what you did and what you are doing now will be remembered for generations to come. No parliament makes a law for one particular regime. Laws are meant to last, and this is one law. These are laws that will last for generations to come. Nigeria has changed with what we are doing today. And I want to congratulate the entire members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and congratulate all Nigerians and all stakeholders who made contributions towards what we are doing here today. Congratulations, Mr. President, and congratulations to all Nigerians, and congratulations to the leadership of the National Assembly.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had this to say.
We are in transit. We have changed the road. We have changed some of the misgivings. We have opened the door for new economy, business opportunity. We are showing that Nigeria is truly, truly ready and open for business. Easy in, easy out.
Chairman Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, put this on record.
You did not dictate anything to us. You only asked questions. And the fact that when it was so tough, you said to me that I should just keep on, and you know this will not be easy. That leadership is the reason why we're here today. We're grateful to you, Your Excellency, and history will remember you for good, for for transforming our country because we know this is an important reform. We're so happy today, and may God bless Nigeria. May God bless you, Excellency.
The signing was followed by a press briefing.
When you have this kind of change, it takes time for all the stakeholder, participants, operators, and even the regulator, to change the system. So with the magnanimity of the National Assembly, Mr. President, so the effective date will be January 1st, 2026 by the special grace of Almighty God. So we have full 6 months for both sensitization, planning, and also considering the fiscal year of the government. Because when you have this kind of change, it's not what you do mid-year, because if the application of law is better, you start from the beginning of the year. So effective dates, by God's grace, will be 1st of January 2026.
I think I just want to reemphasize the importance of the leadership that Mr. President himself provided for this reform. I don't think there's anyone in Nigeria that will disagree with that. We always talk about political will. This is the actual demonstration of political will. Even when it became so heated, there were people calling names, it became politically risky for even Mr. President, because it took a different dimension from regional issues to religious issues. And those things are things Nigerians are sensitive about. An average leader would have just backed down. He kept encouraging us to say, let's keep doing it. It's the right thing. I do not take that for granted, and I thought I should put it on record. And I've said a couple of times, Mr. President did not dictate anything to us. He allowed us to do our work professionally, only asking us questions and providing guidance. I think that's a very important example of how to provide leadership. Another thing that Mr. President did, which is extremely important, was to say he wasn't looking for a committee that will advise and take photos and walk away. He said we have to stay the course and support the government to implement. And anytime I think about it and I look back, I say, imagine we had submitted a report that says we write Nigerian laws, and we took photos and left. When it became very controversial, how would we have been able to deal with it? I think this model should be replicated for subsequent reforms because it has worked. Having said that, today is a very important day in the life of our country, and by extension, in the life of our people. Today is the day that very holistic reform that we have been asking for, some of us have been practicing as professionals for more than 2 decades. And we seem to be speaking to ourselves, or nobody was listening. It became very frustrating. We see the potential of the country and what was possible, but we're being held down by old laws, by laws that were anti-businesses, that were counterproductive all over the place. And having the courage to bring all of it together and put that reform through at this time is truly, truly commendable. And I'd like to say congratulations to all Nigerians. Now, these reforms are not about raising more taxes. I think people get it wrong. A lot of people, including analysts and commentators, will say, oh, where are they going to get the more taxes from? Nigerians are poor. This is exactly trying to relieve people of the burden of taxes. These tax laws, they are now laws, are pro-poor in particular. More than 1/3 of workers in both the private and public sector will now be exempted completely from PAYE. They will not have to pay personal income tax. Small businesses, over 90% of small and micro nano businesses will no longer have to worry about paying corporate income tax or charging VAT or even deducting withholding tax or paying PAYE for their employees. What this means is that there will be more money in the hands of the ordinary Nigerian to take care of their daily needs. In addition to that, these laws also provide what we call zero rate of VAT on essential consumption. What does it mean? It means any traces of VAT in food, in education, in medical and health care is now removed completely. So we should see prices of those items come down. In addition to that, transportation, accommodation, and housing is exempt from VAT. Our analysis, which was very clear, is that these items collectively account for more than 80% of where Nigerians spend their money. That's a huge relief for them. We also have provisions in those laws to help us improve efficiency. Efficiency in how we collect taxes, and also efficiency in the transparency of reporting the taxes we collect, which we expect should then be linked to how those taxes are utilized for the purpose of the people. This is really revisiting the social contract between the government and the people. In addition to that, these laws will promote Nigeria in terms of competitiveness. It's harmonizing the taxes that companies have to pay, reducing the burden of those taxes, and removing distortionary tax waivers and incentives. Because what has been happening is that if you are a very honest person doing your legitimate business and you don't know anyone, you will struggle because your colleague or your competitor who is well connected gets all manners of waivers that you don't have access to. That has been taken care of. There is now transparent incentive regime, reducing discretion and subjectivity, and it's available to anyone once the conditions are met. We also have provisions that speak to wasteful incentive generally, including how do we address tax evasion. This is another very important point. If you have two people doing business, one person is paying their taxes correctly and honestly, the other person is evading their taxes and paying bribe wherever they can find anyone. What we are essentially doing is we are incentivizing the tax evader and we are discouraging the compliant taxpayer. That is not a sustainable way of building a society. These tax laws also address that because it's going to make tax evasion now more expensive while simplifying voluntary compliance. This is how we can build a society we can all be proud of. Of course, if you allow me to continue, there are a lot of other issues that I'm excited to start talking about them. But I think what is most important is to remind ourselves that why this event of today is so important, the journey is just beginning. Writing the law, no matter how beautiful, no matter how transformative, no matter how innovative, means nothing if it is not properly implemented. So we are mindful of that. We're not going to relax. Mr. President has given us the charge that now is the time to move to implementation. And we are ready. We are prepared. It is not something we can do alone, even from the government side. It is something we have to do collectively. Private sector, public sector, civil society, professional bodies, tax consultants, everyone, including our international partners who mean well for Nigeria. This is a time to implement with sincerity, laser focus, and with purpose, so that when we look back in another 1 or 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, we will say, yes, we came together as a people and did the right thing for our country. May God bless Nigeria.
First, we can't thank Mr. President enough. I also want to join appreciating him for taking some of these bold decisions. When the tax reform was brought in the House, it was like a mission impossible. And but we thank God with the cooperation of all Nigerians, including the governors. And of course, particularly from the House of Rep, I want to express appreciation to Mr. Speaker for allowing us to take our time to do the needful. I want to also say boldly that with this tax reform, which has no bearing with increase in taxes, it's just covering more loopholes and taxpayers. And then, of course, giving Nigerian Revenue Service, the capacity to use software, ICT, and all, so that all of us will be in the tax net, majority of us, rather than so that we can have our GDP to tax to be higher than what it is now. For me, I think that at the end of the day, by next year, when this thing starts to roll in, the subnationals again should be expecting an increase in their monthly revenue. which we know that it should be to the benefits of Nigerians at their various homes in local governments. All we can say is to say thank Nigerians, especially the media, for also giving us the coverage that it deserved during this process that we went through. It took us over 10 months to get to where we are, and I'm sure Nigerians will be better for it.
I think I will use this opportunity to extend the nation's appreciation to Mr. President for having the courage to first think of the amendments that he brought and also putting those bills as they are and bringing them to the National Assembly. When he brought these bills to the National Assembly, we know the uproars that those bills attracted all over the country, especially in the northern part of the country. And we looked at those bills carefully. We had stakeholders consultations. Even with those that were really kicking against these bills, we sat with them, we listened to them, we took what they brought, and we also gave them what we think about as a nation, so that this country can get something out of what we have done. And I believe that with consultations and the painstaking nature of the legislative processes that we've taken, I believe we are we brought out bills that seek the aspirations of Nigerians. And what are those aspirations? Just as has been highlighted by the chairman of the Presidential Task Force. We consider the less privileged in terms of earnings and see that we don't add burdens on them. You will also recall that in this country, sometimes we have more than about 72 or 3 different kind of taxes. And all those taxes have been harmonized right from local government, state, and the national. And also, we did not just relent there. We looked at the bills as they brought them on how it will affect the oil and gas industry. We also look at how the export processing zones operate, especially where it will add comparative advantage to our local industrialists. So I think it's good for all Nigerians to look at what we have presented. And you know, laws are not static. Laws continuously are made to be amended, just as nature, as we are, we change every day. So also, whenever there is need for us to do any amendment to those bills, for the good interest of this country, I'm sure the National Assembly will do that. With this, I want to also extend the appreciation and the kind of cooperation we have right from the committee, the Presidential Committee, the FIRS, and even the presidency in terms of not interfering with what we were doing. We were given free hand and we did this thing painstakingly to the benefit of all Nigerians. And over time with the implementation, we will continue to do our constitutional role of oversighting the agencies to see that they are doing the right thing. And anywhere we also find out that the laws or the laws that have been signed have any defects, we are there to make an amendment. With this, I think I will congratulate all Nigerians.
It is indeed a new dawn. Before we go, let us share with you a few highlights of the Tax Reform Acts. The acts take effect from January 1st, 2026. The Federal Inland Revenue Service will now be known as the Nigerian Revenue Service. The Joint Tax Board will now be known as the Joint Revenue Board. Value-added tax remains at 7.5%. In place of earmarked taxes like education tax, NIDA levy, NASENI levy, police trust fund, we will now have a single development levy of 4%, which will be shared among the various bodies. In addition to the currently existing Tax Appeal Tribunal, there is now a provision for Tax Ombudsman, Tax Ombuds for short, where tax disputes can be resolved on a round table. And then the big one. It is generally agreed that all taxes ultimately come out of people's pockets, whether companies' income tax, personal income tax, education tax, value-added tax, but of all of them, personal income tax is the one that most directly affects the individual. Under the relevant act, low-income earners will pay either nothing or little, while of course the big boys and girls will chip in a little more. We have good news for you. Already as we speak, there's a tax calculator on the website of the Oyedele Committee. Go there, type in your income and you'll be amazed. And that applies to everyone, everywhere, because as you know, the Personal Income Tax Act is a federal law. So Sokoto, Lagos, Ebonyi, PLC, Limited Liability Company, same everywhere. For more, we sat down with a prominent member of the committee, Managing Consultant Kreston Pedabo, Mr. Albert Folorunsho. Mr. Folorunsho, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Amaka. Good to be with you.
Good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Let us begin by congratulating your committee. I mean, you were a prominent member of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. So let us congratulate you on this great achievement.
Well, thank you so much. I believe it's a very great feat to see it to the end.
Yes, sir. Now, would you agree that it is a new dawn for tax administration in Nigeria?
Definitely. If you look at the way the bill has been turned into law, signed by the president in 4 buckets, that is the Nigerian Tax Act, the one that covers all the taxing rights, and then we have the Nigerian Tax Admin, which governs the administration of taxes, what authority, how do you file your returns, and then we have the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act, okay, specifically for the authority that is responsible for collecting revenue due to the federal government, which used to be the Federal Revenue Service. And of course, we have the Joint Revenue Establishment Act, that covers all the authorities that have to do with revenue collection in Nigeria, starting from the Nigerian Revenue Service, the state, the local government revenue committee, and having to come together under the joint revenue body. And of course, it also covers the adjudication procedures, that is, the tax appeal tribunal, the tax ombuds, and how they operate. You will see that the Nigerian tax space is not going to be the same again, definitely, going forward.
Of course. Now, could you please walk us through the highlights of this 4 tax acts? I know you've actually mentioned part of it, but we want more.
Okay. So if you look at the Nigerian Tax Act, it is the one that covers all the taxing obligations, all the taxes that are payable, and the basis for computation of all taxes that used to be separate acts. We used to have the personal income tax, the company income tax, the petroleum profit tax. All of those has been subsumed into the Nigerian Tax Act. Okay, so starting with individuals, what taxes are payable by individual? Income tax, capital gains tax, value-added tax, and other taxes. You will see it there. Then, of course, if you pick a company, what are the taxes payable by a company, depending on what the company is into. Either it's into oil, or it's into normal trading, into business. All of those are also contained in the Nigerian Tax Act. So the provision of the Nigerian Tax Act covers all taxes. It's more or less the fiscal provision that determines the tax payable by an entity, by an individual, or whatever type of organization that you may be. Then we have the following that is the Nigerian Tax Admin Act, okay, that determines, what returns are due and by who and to whom.
Watch out for the full interview.